Intimate Portrait, hosted by Meredith Vieira.
I'm Meredith Vieira, and this is an intimate portrait of Olivia Newton-John. Remember those romantic summer nights when Grease was the word, and Sandy and Danny literally rode off into the sunset together? Well, next, Grammy winner Olivia Newton-John tells us about those days and the days that followed, about her family, her music, and her battle with breast cancer. Here's close friend and actress Dyan Cannon with the inspiring story of Olivia Newton-John.
From sweet girl next door to sexy pop star, she's one of the world's most beloved performers.
She was by far the best female singer then.
I think that she'll forever be America's and the world's #1 sweetheart.
She's defined 2 generations with her magical voice and her active concern for the world.
She's a down-to-earth, beautiful, wonderful person.
If Olivia never performed again, she'd still be Olivia.
And she has turned her devastating ordeal with breast cancer into a positive reaffirmation of life.
She went through it incredibly bravely.
I'm Dyan Cannon. Join me as we celebrate a woman who's not only a close friend of mine, but a personal inspiration as well. She's a brilliant songstress, a caring individual, and most of all, a survivor. Olivia Newton-John, an intimate portrait, coming up next. In a life full of achievements, both global and personal, Olivia Newton-John is down to earth in every sense. Her genuine concern for the world and her amazing gift of song have inspired millions and made her known the world over.
If you'd met me when I was a teenager, my vision was that I'd get married and have children, have a white picket fence and dogs and cats and horses. I wasn't like dreaming of being a big star. Maybe in the back of my mind I kind of felt if it was going to happen, it was going to happen, but it wasn't like priority. I wanted, you know, the perfect kind of life. And it's really weird that it didn't happen that way.
Olivia Newton-John was born on September 26, 1948 in Cambridge, England, to Bryn and Irena Newton-John. Her academic family included her father, a professor of German, and her grandfather, Max Born, the celebrated Nobel Prize-winning physicist and friend of Albert Einstein. Olivia was a smart and happy child, but there was one thing that she wanted to change.
I hated my name, Olivia Newton-John. Can you imagine? Triple barrel name with an unusual name for a first name. I wanted to be like Claire Smith or Margaret Brown or, you know, anything but what I was. Now I'm really thrilled that I have a name that is different, but I think it's just a normal thing for a child to want to fit in and be like everybody else. As a child, there were 3 of us, my brother, then my sister, then me. My brother and sister were just a few years older, but enough that there was an age gap.
She was so gorgeous and so sweet. I think you are, as a little child, what you are when you've grown up. I really do.
When Olivia was 5 years old, her family moved to Australia, which would become her adopted home. It was during this time that Olivia fell in love with music.
My father was Welsh, so I think that he had that hereditary, beautiful voice. He had a beautiful singing voice. I think that's where I got my voice from, and my mother also sang and played an instrument.
It was a very musical household. She was probably about 7 or 8, and she used to just sing, and she had a natural ear, so she could harmonize naturally.
In 1959, when Olivia was just 10 years old, her parents divorced. The traumatic event devastated her and sent her life into a whirlpool of change.
I think it was very difficult for me at 10 going through a divorce. My dad went to live in Newcastle, my brother went to college, my sister went away, and it was just Mum and me. I think that was a hard period.
With her father and siblings gone, Olivia moved into a small apartment with her mother. To make ends meet, Irena Newton-John went to work at a time when most women stayed home to care for their children.
I was a latchkey child. My mother had to get a job. She'd never worked before, and she had to start working, which was very brave of her. And being as young as I was, I really didn't understand what she was going through. But we got by, and she was very good to me in those early years, and I thank her for it too.
When Olivia was 13, her mother gave her an acoustic guitar. Still brokenhearted by the divorce of her parents, she began to channel her feelings into music.
I started singing with 3 other girls. We had kind of the roll neck, black turtlenecks and Hessian jackets and the hair and this, and we'd go down to the jazz clubs and sing. And my mother put an end to that because she thought it was taking too much of my time.
With the help of her boyfriend, Ian Turpie, Olivia began to master the guitar and delighted in singing the folk songs of the time.
My sister was married to a man who had a coffee lounge, and I would go in there and hang with her sometimes. And somebody came in and saw me sing and suggested that I went into this talent contest that was going on. So I went into that and I did the song Everything's Coming Up Roses, and I won it, which was even more surprising, and the prize was a trip to England.
After her victory in the talent contest, Olivia was offered a job as hostess on a local children's TV show.
I was offered a permanent job at the station. So then that was the big decision. Did I go back and finish my last year at school, or did I take this job? And so I went to see one of my favourite teachers and asked him what he thought. And he said, well, I can just say that if you're going to be thinking about singing and trying to finish this last year of school, which is the hardest year, you're not going to make it. So I recommend that you follow your heart and what you want to do. And I followed his advice and I left school. My mother was not happy. And there was even things in the paper in those days saying school or stardom, which should she do?
Working on local TV for a year, 15-year-old Olivia was becoming increasingly well-known. Appearing regularly on The Go Show, Olivia became a minor celebrity in Melbourne.
The Go Show was a teenage rock and roll show, and it was kind of based on the American Bandstand, and they'd have maybe 8 guests a week, and we'd all come on and sing a couple of songs each.
This was the most incredible looking girl, still is. She made your heart beat. I suspect that every young guy, anyone around my age at that time, had a thing about Olivia Newton-John.
One week she did The Locomotion, but she was so scared in television in those days, she didn't move. So the producer asked me to take her aside and teach her to dance a little bit, because I was an ex-dancer, and we became friends that way.
In 1965, the prize trip that Olivia had won was about to expire, and at the urging of her mother, they left Australia for England.
I didn't want to go. I really didn't want to go. It was like, I'm Australian and I want to stay in Australia and I have a boyfriend, and I really didn't want to go, but she really insisted, and she was right, I'm sure. Now I have a 12-year-old, I really understand my mum better, but at the time I didn't. So thank you, Mum.
While living in London with her mother, Olivia began singing in small clubs and even recorded her first single, Till You Say You'll Be Mine. But she was homesick for Australia and grew increasingly restless.
I hated London. Thought it was old and ugly, and now I think it's gorgeous, it's antique, but at the time, it's amazing in different times in your life how you see things before you've had any experience of life. And it was cold and grey, and I was used to the blue skies of Australia.
In the summer of 1966, Olivia got some great news. Her good friend Pat Carroll had won a trip to England where she planned to sing in a few clubs. It wasn't long before a new partnership was born.
She stayed with Mum and I in the flat for a couple of weeks, and then we actually got a flat together with 2 other girls. So I was only 17, 18.
And I used to go to the clubs to work, and Olivia would come and keep me company, and she wasn't working at the time. And I was lonely, and I didn't really want to go on trains and go all around England by myself. So I went to my agent and said, all the jobs I've got lined up, do you mind if I bring another girl in? And they said, not at all, because they'd seen her and knew she was pretty. And so we worked out all these harmonies and started doing all these shows together, and I split my wages with her for the first maybe 4 months.
Calling themselves Pat and Olivia, the 2 girls traveled around England performing in small clubs and on American military bases.
We stayed in these digs, and they were very cheap, and we did these clubs and 2 shows a night, and sleazy clubs around the country. But we had a great time. It was really fun. It was exciting. It was all new to us,
In September of 1966, while performing with Pat at a music festival, Olivia met Bruce Welch of The Shadows. The 2 became very close, and by 1967 had become romantically involved. Meanwhile, Pat and Olivia were growing in popularity.
I think our break came when we started being a support act for different people, and through that we got a recording contract and we started doing big TV shows, and so our careers took off then. I see the sun up high, the way cars in the store. I can see where you and I could be cozy and warm.
We were invited back to Australia and given our own show. In those days, in order to become successful, you almost had to leave and come back. And you didn't have to do much, but you just had to leave and come back. So we came back with, you know, the press at the airport and our girls from London, and we had our own TV show.
In 1968, Pat's visa expired. With her partner gone, Olivia was suddenly on her own, but not for long. Olivia's manager introduced her to music producer Don Kirshner, who handpicked her for his latest project.
He was famous because he put the Monkees together, and the Monkees were a huge group at that time, and he was trying to do the same thing in a movie form. So he teamed up with Harry Saltzman, who made all the James Bond movies, and we were going to be the new movie Monkees.
Like the Monkees, Tomorrow was a fabricated pop group whose playful misadventures were carefully designed to take the public by storm. Unlike the Monkees, it didn't work.
We made this movie, and it was going to be a series of movies, and this first movie was a space fantasy musical. We were a group on Earth who was so great that we could solve the problems on this other planet. So they were going to beam us up and take us, or they did. They beamed us up into a spaceship and were going to take us to their planet to save their civilization. So need I say more? And when you look at it now, it's kind of camp. It's really funny.
Look, sir, mister, our music won't be any good to you out there. We won't be able to cure anything. You just can't switch on feeling, heart, or emotion. It comes through the people you play to. You turn on together.
It was a great experience, and it flopped. It was very disappointing, but anyway, nevertheless, I gained a lot out of it.
Coming up, Olivia goes solo and becomes an international sensation. Next, when Intimate Portrait continues. We now return to Olivia Newton-John and Intimate Portrait. Although Tomorrow was a dismal failure, Olivia was not discouraged. By 1970, she had become engaged to Bruce Welch, who encouraged her to launch a career as a solo artist. Bruce had teamed up with John Farah, now married to Olivia's friend Pat. Together, Welch and Farah would play an important role in shaping Olivia's musical style.
I went to England in 1970 to join a group over there, and one of the members of the group was doing a television series at the time, so we couldn't work together as the group.
And John had nothing to do, and neither Bruce. And Peter Gormley, who was Olivia's manager in those days, said, well, why don't you go in the studio and record a few tracks?
So they came and lived in England with us, and John and Bruce actually became my producers of my first record that I made.
Released in 1971, Olivia's first solo album included a cover of Bob Dylan's If Not For You, which became a minor hit. But her relationship with Bruce Welch had deteriorated, and the following year they split up. Although she continued recording with John Farah, it was Cliff Richard who helped Olivia make the leap from struggling artist to household name.
Cliff Richard's manager, Peter Gormley, took me on, and Cliff was looking for somebody to sing a duet with.
Peter, being my manager, had set up all my TV shows, and he said, do you think, you know, she should come on our show? And I said, yeah, of course, it'd be great. And of course, it was a chance to sing with her for the first time.
Don't move away when you know I really want you.
I have a wonderful history with him, and he really helped me with my career a lot because he put me on his show. And I learned a lot from watching him too. He's a wonderful performer.
In 1973, Let Me Be There became Olivia's first top 10 hit in America, though it made virtually no impact in England. Even more surprising, the song hit #1 on the U.S. country charts, introducing Olivia's music to a whole new set of fans.
Baby, I hang around here a little more than I should. We both know I got somewhere else to go.
With its poignant lyrics and Olivia's moving interpretation, I Honestly Love You was an instant success, becoming her first #1 hit and cementing her career in America at last.
There's some people that are obviously very, very, hell-bent on making a big success of their lives. With Olivia, it wasn't obvious at all. I mean, she went from one thing to another, and it just progressed and segued into the next thing that was a big success.
And the winner is...
I can't read it. You have the glasses.
Olivia Newton-John.
Right.
The country-flavored sound of I Honestly Love You also caused a stir when Olivia was named Female Vocalist of the Year by the Country Music Association.
At the moment, I'm touring Europe where there are millions of country fans. On behalf of all of them, I'd like to say a big hello to all of you.